Welcome back to a new episode of Breakfast with a CEO, hosted by myself, Matt C. Smith, and
Yrja Oftedal.
that is right. And today we have someone very special, very interesting, who has, now if I can get this straight, she's worked for the same company for 20 years, but she's had 7 different roles. So she's going to be sharing some insight into navigating and taming the corporate life and how to engineer it to benefit you. So ladies and gentlemen, give one warm welcome to Trina Strumnes.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Beautiful. But first things first, Trina, what did you have for breakfast?
I had granola and I had kesam or kvag.
Or kvag?
Whatever.
For the benefit for the benefit of our non-Nordic audience, what is kvarg or kvarg?
Funny you should ask. I actually don't know, but I know it's a byproduct from milk production.
Yeah.
From a cow. Yeah.
What is
It's
it
a
with
byproduct.
Norwegians and byproducts of milk production? Because in Norway we have this cheese called brunost, which is the byproduct of cheese making?
The cheese making, goat cheese making.
It's a byproduct. I learned something new then today.
Yeah.
I think it's a byproduct, so don't take me for it.
Okay.
I like to check it. It's something around milk. It comes from cows. I do believe.
And the big question that everyone wants to know is, how does a CEO of your stature, CEO of general manager, CEO of Cisco in Norway, how do you start your day? What's your morning routine?
It's actually up fairly early.
What does that mean?
It means, depending on how the day looks, average 6 o'clock or earlier.
When do you go to bed?
I'm a very an A person, so I do my best work in the morning. So if I do need to do something focused, I do it in the morning, and then I go to bed early. But I'm married to someone that is the other other end of the scale, and so it's 11ish. It's difficult. But I can do with less hours of sleep than my husband, so I'm fine. But I basically need to get up early. So and then I do either run or I go directly into my office. Right now we are sitting at home most of the time, so I go directly to my office, do whatever is required to do with focus, and then I either go for a run or to the shower, and then breakfast. And then most of the time with my husband, because he's also in the home office, so we kind of share the house. And we have some dogs, so we run in the morning with them, or he runs in the morning with them. It's fairly, but it's good to get up in the morning. It's good to go out and get some fresh air, because you wake up. But again, 2 out of 5 days I go directly into my office.
Yeah, but it sounds like a lovely morning.
Yeah, but at least I don't pick up the phone. It's not the first thing I do. I don't pick up the phone as the first thing I do.
You don't look on Instagram the first thing in the morning?
No.
Me?
It takes 5 minutes. So
Let's get a little bit into you. You have been into IT and technology since the 80s, basically. And you're like, but like, what happened? What made, like, not that many people were into IT, and especially not girls. So what took you into IT?
So actually, I would say 90s, beginning of 90s, because that's where I was heading for Civic, so master, so business, and I was almost to my BA, and then I figured out that this IT thing at that time called something else. It was just new to everyone. I wanted to know what it was, so I went for 1 year with a very, call it basic. It's like the first year on engineering study, so it counted the same study points, and it had basic. What is this IT thing? So the basic data communication. It had coding, programming with C and Pascal, and I during that year, I was just so in love with technology. And the aha moment came when I typed a command in a kind of a small program.
Do you remember what the command was?
And no, I can't remember because this was Unix and it was horrible commands. It was just something. So, but I just typed in that it should repeat something. It was just a simple thing, but it made the machine do something, and I was whoa. Yeah, but it was at the same time, and I was in a 1.5 year ago. I was in a Python. Kids coding, and I was joining the kids learning Python. And since I've learned programming, I understand it a bit. And of course, it's better, it's more automated, it's simpler. But the same kind of feeling, okay, I can make the machine do something. So that's where I learned to love technology. I learned to love what technology, or I love what technology does for us, and I seem like I'm very very philosophical. It's just when I see that technology can help healthcare, and when I see technology can help businesses, when I see technology what Apple does with their phone, and even more what the with the different apps, the pace of speed, and I love change, so it's kind of a combination. And that's the reason why I've been in the company I am in for so many years. Because
but you like change, but you've been in the same place for 20 years.
Yeah, which is
yes,
fascinating.
thank you. Yeah, it's true. But I change so every day. So we change a lot. You need to be used to change. You need to be used to change both in terms of changing jobs within the company, but it's a very very fast pace, and you either do it. You can't complain about it. You either do it and you get your heart into it, or you don't and you do something else. Basically, you need to adapt to the you need to take it in. You need to accept it, and then you need to do the best with it. But there is a lot of change. So even with the same company, we've changed so many times. But I started out when I started in IT. It was just out of mainframe period was over. We went into PCs and servers. So
to breaking it down, mainframe, servers, PCs. Also, I feel like we should make a point when you mentioned Python earlier, you weren't playing with serpents. You were dealing with the language, a technical language, which is called no, not at all. But it's something for my benefit as well. I've learned the different languages just for fun. What are we've got Python, Node, Angular, C++. These are all languages which you use. These are coding languages, they're called, right? And it's like learning French or Spanish, and it's like you can build a language and you can build certain things with language.
Yes.
Just to give everyone some context, what is the internet built on? It's HTML and C++.
IP. So internet is built. If you ask what is HTML, XTML, but it's built on IP. And that was what the company I work in is basically the start of internet and the start of the IP protocol. And that's the story in itself, which is we call it the love story.
Please tell us.
Yeah. So in 1984, there was a couple, actually a married couple on Stanford, and Stanford is a huge campus. And they worked in each end of the campus. They were managing data systems. And that time, the data systems did not communicate. So the way they could communicate in 1984 was basically to pick up the phone or to walk across the campus, which is a big campus again. So they had to figure out, how do we speak more frequently? Just married. How do we communicate more frequently? How do we talk about who's going to feed the cat? So they invented a small box called, I think that at that time it was an AGS, but it was a multi-protocol router. And it took data from one data system, translated it over to the other data system. So they could send messages. And that's what's happening on internet today. Basically, data going from one site to another. And it's going through some products. 80% of these products is going through. So when you send, or when you have a Snap or Insta or whatever, it goes through mostly our products, 75 to 80% of the products that makes up the internet today. But you don't see these products. They're kind of below the surface. When I ask people who is Cisco, not so many people know. But in Norway, we are known as the best in video conferencing for the world.
Since when?
Since when? In 2010, or Cisco, and I was working in Cisco at that time. We got John Chambers, which was CEO. He came over. He bought the company, but he bought a company called Tandberg, and that was the world leading in video conferencing technology at that time.
In Oslo, Norway, based HQ'd.
Yes, exactly, and really a growing company. But to grow further on, they needed help, and because they were already world leading in what they were doing, and Cisco saw this, and what they did was buy it, and they basically kept the investments. So that meant that they didn't move, they didn't come in, move the people over to US. They kept the investments. So today we are as many engineers as we were when the acquisition happened. And normally what you see is that companies of that size come in, they move people closer to headquarters because inevitably a lot of our R&D happens in San Jose, but not on the beautiful WebEx devices, which is our video conferencing technology. So we are world leading. I'm trying not to be, I'm not arrogant, but we are world leading.
Proud. You should be proud.
I'm really proud. I'm so proud. Because the engineers sitting at Lysaker or in Oslo or in Norway, around 350 engineers, everything from designers to hardware engineers to a lot of software engineers, they make up and they design from basically thinking of an idea to putting it through to supply chain for them to get it out to the factories. They do everything in Norway. They work extensively with teams across the world, but basically everything is done with the teams in Norway. And there's a reason for it. In Norway, we have a lot of trust. We have trust to each other. We have a great, if you compare to other countries, I trust you. We trust the government. I don't trust you. No, but seriously, we are a society with trust. That means that the teams work better together. They trust each other. So actually, innovation coming from Norway is great out of that reason, and also we have some great engineers. So we won more than I stopped counting at 17 Red Dot Awards, and Red Dot Award is a big thing in design and industry design, and every product that comes out of Lysaker almost we win a Red Dot Award for. So it's just so I'm proud, and Norway should be proud because this is legacy in Norway. So we just need to talk a little bit more about it.
It must be amazing to be a leader of when you are driven by innovation and change,
Yes.
and you're actually the leader of this part of in Cisco. So how has you've been in Cisco for 20 years? How has like your journey within Cisco impacted you as a leader? You think? Because you haven't been the leader since your very start.
No. So I think being in the same company for 20 years, when I went into working, I was thinking 3 to 5 years, that's the max I'm going to be in any company. And I kept that for 2 jobs, actually, so less than 3 years. And then I started in Cisco, and I got the opportunity after 3 years in Norway. I got the opportunity to lead a team in business development within healthcare. And that team was based out of different countries in EMEA. I was sitting in Norway at that time, and my area of responsibility was all of healthcare in Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Latin America, actually. So that was something I was asked. are you willing to do this? And it wasn't a coincidence because I was pretty good at what I did in the job I had in Norway. But I was kind of scared. Should I go to Latin America and talk to our internal teams or to the customers about how our great technology can help healthcare? Okay, shit, I do it. And that I did for 5 years. And that gave me a perspective on our technology, healthcare, people, culture, how you work, how you. I did so many errors in going to France and thinking that you could start a meeting with a CEO and say, okay, so this is what we're going to do now. This is the agenda, without having a kind of informal small talk. So I did so many errors. I was thrown out of meetings. I was, it was really. And I went to Dubai and I did errors there as well. But I learned that always ask the team what is it that you should not do, what is it that you should do. So but there was a lot of things I learned, and that from there on, I basically went. I lived in Norway. I did actually travel from Norway, and that was difficult. That is difficult. So travel 200 days a year out of Norway to different countries in the world. So I decided I don't have any private life. When I got home, I basically stayed on the couch. I didn't want to meet anyone. There was just get away. So I wanted to get back to have more balance. And after almost 5 years, I went back to Norway and I led a team in Norway, a completely different team, completely different job, but basically around technology and public sector. And then I went to another team leading. I was asked, and I did. I was asked after 2 years. Do you want to lead? Sometimes there is coincidences. You kind of not fall over a job, but sometimes it's you're lucky. Most of the time, it's hard work to figure out if I want to do this. Then actually, who do I need to know? Who do I need to work with? Who do I need to speak to? Most of the time, it's going directly to the people hiring. It's easier within the company if you're already in the company. But it's also being very much aware of what you want. So what is my next, always looking out for what is my next opportunity, because it determines what I need to do now, what I need to know, what I need to learn, who do I need to know, which network do I need to build. And I started in 29, so after 9 years, I started being systematic about that. Understanding I had to basically be better in this, or determining my own destiny. So also when we talk about mentors, I learned from my mentors that you need to be prepared. You need to have some thoughts in your mind. Don't expect me as a mentor to give you the ideas. You need to know what is it that drives you. What is it that make you have energy every day when you go to work.
So you need to be proactive. That's one thing that's come out of our conversations with several of the CEOs we've had on the show. That and Odia's had examples too of that, where you to get the job, to meet the person, to find the dream role, you need to be proactive and chase it. And also, often the dream role isn't just there and available at the right time. I mean, think about how often you find the right job that's just happened to be when you're looking at the right time, at the right level, at the right pay grade. So create the job that you want to Odia, you've done that before, right?
I got all my jobs by asking almost, or headhunting, because of my network and what I've been doing. So
But how important is it having a mentor? Because being a woman in tech as well in those days, was it a female mentor?
No, it was actually male, and that's I think it's because you need to. I'm often so I'm often a mentor for females because it helps to have a female mentor. I didn't have the luxury in the start to have a female mentor that could help me. Not because we didn't have female leaders, but it was better for me to have a male mentor. And I was at that time fairly pragmatic. But I also picked mentors out of which role did they have, how they could help me, but also their personality and their ability and their engagement in helping me. So if you can be a mentor and you can be halfway engaged or 30% engaged, and you will have one conversation and there will be nothing more, basically. Or you can have someone that is really engaged and they help you with a network. They help you with basically the next step. But now I see more that we have more of the female mentors because it helps. It helps you navigate. It helps you being better. But it doesn't need to be that. I think I think there's a mix, and what I've learned as well is you need to have some formal mentors, one or two, and then you need to have some informal mentors. So that's basically your network, and you need to be a little bit, not a little bit, actually quite good in doing that, and you need to be structured in doing that, based on what career you're choosing.
How do I start finding a mentor? Right now, our friends listening to this right now, how can they go from this podcast, whatever time of the day they're listening to it, and find a mentor? What's the right approach?
Yeah, so I would say ask. No, but inside Cisco, it's a different. If you talk about being in a company, I send an email. Or within our company, or send a message. Ask the person, because most of the time you will be proud to be asked, and sometimes you don't always have time to be a mentor, but if you can, it's a good thing to be asked. And what I feel is that the good mentor-mentee relationships has always given me as much as the mentee. Because I learned something from that relationship as well, and especially if you go outside the company, because I've done something like that before as well, a couple of times, and that you learn something about the company, their customers, personality of the person. And the same goes within if I'm mentoring two now in Cisco. I learn about their countries, their culture, what they do. So it goes both ways. So that's my take on mentorship. And sometimes it doesn't work. And I think the best thing to do is be aware of the goals or set targets. And what do you want to achieve with a mentorship? What do you want as a mentee? What do you want to achieve? And then agree on that and have a plan, because that makes it so much easier. Because else it's yeah.
So you've been in the company for 20 years. You know, these days there are people normally quit their job after 1 or 3 years. Do you want to keep your employees for 20 years? And if so, what do you do? How do you cultivate a culture that wants people to stay?
It's a very good question. I don't necessarily think people should stay 20 years or even 10 years. I've stayed because I've tried many times to go outside, and I've done many college surveys and tests and interviews, and I've gone fairly extensively in the interviews, but I've gone back to figuring out that we have a great company, innovation, change, culture, beyond everything else. If you feel that's the right thing and you get energy every day going to work, then you're in a good place. If you don't, and I actually talked to the people in Cisco, you should rotate. And if you are staying in Cisco, you should, or you're staying in the company, sorry, then you should rotate, because I've been again 3 years in every position, and I force myself to rotate. Having this exactly the same static job doesn't give you the perspectives, because every time I changed jobs, it's been like starting all over. You have the culture, you have the security of that, but you also need to learn everything, and you get a new perspective. And people that has been in one completely different role and go into another role, they will have different perspective. They add value to what we're doing. But when you stop doing that, if I stop doing that in the company I work in now, then I need to be out.
Trina, you're a leader. You become a leader. Were you born a leader, or did you become one?
Uh, is anyone born a leader? I think I've asked a couple of questions when I'm trying to figure out who people are, and that goes to development conversations with the people that work for me. Are you typically someone that takes a leading role when you're a team and you're hustling around something, a project, trying to find what are we going to do? You have a purpose. Are you typically the one, or I'm asking which role? I'm asking an open-ended question. I'm not asking that. What is the role you are taking? Totally just open. I normally take leading roles. But I don't know if that defines a leader, to be honest. But I'm trying to figure out what is it that takes to lead.
What do you, in your opinion, what does it take to lead? What are the values that you believe a leader should have in today's world?
I need to be myself. I need to be authentic, and I really mean it. Because if not, people are I'm gonna be busted. To put it like that, it very easily. And another thing, I need to be accessible. I can't be. I'm myself, and I'm just myself. And people can access me. People and I need to be. I can't be on a pillar.
Closed wall, corner office.
Yeah.
No one come in. Three PAs.
So if we have an open landscape, I'm sitting all over the place. They never know where. I don't have I've never had an office. We have a flat structure. We have a culture of that, and we have a culture of accessibility, and that is important. But I also. What's important is that you're able to have to establish a vision and communicate. Also, not a vision, a purpose. Because I think that in innovation or diversity, to touch on that as well, diversity in minds and culture, background, who you are, age, everything that drives innovation. But I've also experienced that you have teams with a lot of diversity in opinions based on who they are and where they come from. And they never agree on anything. So you need to basically have a purpose. And that purpose needs to be clear. And that needs to be communicated and clear and understood and believed in from the people in the group. And me as a leader need to be very good in defining that purpose and then communicate it and communicate and communicate. So communication is a big part of being a leader, outside just authenticity, and accessibility. And I also believe, just my personal opinion, you need to be engaged. You're passionate. I believe in what my company does, and I do it because I love to go to work.
Being yourself, being accessible, being engaged, available.
Yeah.
Traits, I think, should be of any leader. Is there any lesson that you've learnt in your 2 decades, which is incredible, at Cisco, through the many roles you've had, that you wished you, or not wished, but you would have loved to tell yourself when you started at Cisco?
Yeah, good question. I think again, the communication is what I've learned is that being able to communicate is important. The lessons I've learned is probably to become a leader. You need to work hard. There is basically no way around it. You need to work hard. In these times, and 1 decade ago, you need to work hard.
Peter Drucker that says culture eats strategy for breakfast. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, 100%. We actually had when we acquired Tandberg and Cisco had 2 very equally, actually very similar cultures, but very strong cultures. And there was a lot of work being done to being able, especially in Norway, because we are a large group of people in Norway, engineers, and there was so much work being done to make sure that these cultures were able to work together. They had a culture minister in Tandberg, Anniken
That's in
Rød.
the early days.
That was
Culture minister.
culture minister. She was so in 2010, and she was also culture minister in 2014. They also had this culture strategy for business, but they had or for breakfast. They had a really great strategy. Oh, sorry, culture. They had a lot of focus on it. We talk about conscious culture, which is basically you have some values, and the culture is basically how we show up, how we are, and we spend so much time with that because it kind of defines us. And I say I work in a company because I love the culture. Yes, I love the culture of being, we are being bold. We are just do it, just try it. Innovation, spotting trends, take accountability. So yes, it's so important. If you don't have that, you will, I won't say fail, but you will be challenged because it's about engagement of the people working there. It's about having. We just became number 2 great place to work.
Ooh,
Yeah, and you can say a lot of things about great place to work, but it's basically based on engineers saying, and you can't have an engineer say something else than they actually mean. I'm serious. So they say this is a great place to work. 96% of the employee say this is a great place to work. So and that comes from a great culture.
And I have to echo that purely because Udi and I we had the privilege to be the hosts of the European Commission's hackathons during March, April, May. We came across you guys. We came across Cisco, right? And I'm glad you cleared up who Cisco are because I know the name, but I quite honestly couldn't place what you did before that experience. And I work in tech, right? I should know that kind of thing. But you're not an Apple, you're not a Google, you're not a hardware. Well, you are a hardware and a software producer. But we dealt with one of your employees. He knows who he is listening to this. I hope he does. And the team around him as well, actually, 2 ladies as well. And they were just so outstanding. And we weren't necessarily asking for anything for free or anything like that. But they came there before we asked and sort of anticipated the need we would have. And then when we had support issues, they were there like night and day, giving us. I probably shouldn't say there's free accounts, demo accounts, and all these things.
Oh, wow.
But they were just there to help us, and and to this day, they're still there when we have questions and things like that. So, and I mentioned that because it was a blend of people and cultures, and you at Cisco, from my opinion, looking at the organization in my brief experience of your Video Valley or with Lysaker, where you build these innovative video conferencing softwares, which are so relevant to today. We're going to come to that in a moment. I met a range in people. Diversity. Now this podcast is supported. It's a she podcast, right? And she community or an organization trying to speed up and equalize the economic gap, the gender economic gap, right? In pay and in everything around that. Now we stand in a position today where I believe at the beginning of the year, I heard that it's going to take 206 years to get us to have an equal gender economic equality, right? Which is just, it's such a number that's so far fetched. I don't really believe it. I can't even fathom it because it's not in my lifetime or my grandkids' lifetime probably. COVID has apparently added another 57 years to that. So we're looking at sort of 250, 260 years till we reach economic equality. Cisco and you're a female leader at an organization of, tech is dominated by men. What are you doing to activate and encourage women of any age, of any socioeconomic background to work in tech?
So one, by being a role model, and I hope I'm a good role model, because I think we need that. I need role models. We have a leadership team now. So the global leadership team, there's more females than men in the global leadership team, which is just great. And that, because you have to what do you call it? Put your mouth where you put your.
You have to put your actions where your words are.
Something like that.
Yeah,
yes.
actions where your words are.
Yeah.
If you're listening and can you write in the comments and let us know? It would be really helpful.
But that you need to actually what you're saying, you need to go first and do it. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. We have an active, and I'm being helped by the company. So I'll talk about just briefly what we are doing to help this, and then what I'm doing. So we have a demand to our managers, to our leaders, that this is how much females you're going to have. This is diversity. This is a diversity scope, and we know, and we're not doing it just to say we have a kind of cross, we tick the box. It's because we need it. We need diversity, and as I said, it drives innovation. And it's not like it's different minds think great. So I'm forced to have this many females, and it forces me to do something. It forces me to that you're not being complacent. You have to do something. You have to go out and you have to get a different funnel of a different slate of candidates when you hire someone. You talk about working from home.
Correct.
We always had the opportunity to work from home. Everyone can work from home, and you have the tools, and you have the freedom, and you have the culture to do it. And that is if you are, if you want to, if you have kids, if you want to stay a bit longer than your maternity leave, then you can do that. You can work from home, and it's easy because you make sure that it's easy to do it, and you don't create any stigma around it because everyone can do it. So it's easier, and that's where our females is also saying that it's so great to be able to work from home 2 days a week. No, 2 days. Yeah, 2 days a week. Sometimes 3 days a week. Sometimes the full week.
Do you think COVID has helped and sped that process up of acceptance in the corporate environment of women and men, but actually, obviously, the ones who really benefit from it are women working from home?
I hope so. I see now that, so I think that there is more to it than just providing technology to do it and being forced to do it. I think what we are doing is that we have a great system, so I'm going to brag about that because it makes you have less problems with your back. It's better. It's basically just better to sit at home when you sit at home every day and you sit there 8 hours a day. Then you need to have the culture to do it. You need to basically have the trust. Because if I don't trust my employees, what they do at home, then you will never have a good way of continuing this. You will say that you can do it, but the employees won't trust you. So they will feel that they need to go back to work. But then you also need to create the opportunity to, I don't believe in 100% working from home because people need people.
Mm-hmm. There's a bone I have to pick with social distancing. It should be rephrased as physical distancing because social distancing implies that we should socially distance from one another, which is so incorrect in the working environment. A lot of, as you've mentioned, I mean, a lot of your success as a leader now, but in the run up to that was your cross-pollination in different teams, right? Your social touch points. So then when you went to the next role, you were in the same company and your colleagues were still in the old roles. I'm sure they'd come up to you and tell you what was going on there. So I think, having that element of cross-pollination, is there anything that you have an idea of solving that cross? How can we create physical distancing but also have people socially interacting in the workplace?
In a workplace, so we do that partly actually. We create virtual coffees. And that's kind of, now you have physical distancing. You work from home or you work from anywhere basically. But you need to have some. We need to have some kind of. We try to mix people because it's you need to do that because you have people having to work with others. So you need to mix groups and you need to have someone organize it. So there needs to be it. I don't know if it's a good answer to it, but just as an example, we are very focused on inclusion. So because we have managers sitting outside Norway, having employees in Norway, working for Norway. Yesterday we were out for the first time. We had a kind of a celebration, and we had groups of no more than 8 people. gather or to spread around the town in different restaurants. And we actually had we only had max two from the same team, so we did really spread it out, and people just yes. So you need to do it. You need to have it as part of your culture. You need to be able to let people do that, because else they're going to gather in their team. So it's well, we just to mention that we've done a lot of great things to keep the I would say morale up, and to keep the fun up. So we've every month I think we've had wine tasting. We actually created or made food. We had cheese tasting, whatever, on video. And what's good?
Video cheese tasting.
Video cheese tasting,
Can
yeah.
help with
Video
the
and
smelly
wine.
cheese, right?
Yeah.
Just smell it.
Oh, you didn't smell it, but it was what was fun. Not only fun was great is that because we have great systems that you have your family with you, family and friends, and we decided on we're going to continue with that even after we meet again in the office, because it was a great experience. And you normally your family they will feel that you're at work quite a lot, right? So now they had an opportunity to meet with colleagues, so
that's
it was great.
Interesting parallel, because it allows, previously talking about the children at the home, for example, seeing mom or dad going off to work, obviously having really no context what mom or dad does unless they wear a uniform, really, to be honest with you, right? Now then, mom or dad working from home, and this is not to say for all families, but I can imagine there's a greater transfer of information from father to daughter to son to mother to daughter to son to whoever, right? Which is an interesting new parallel to pull, that now work has never been more important in the home environment, because it's been forced to be there. What is equality to you, Trina?
Equality to me is you're basically doing the same job. There is no difference. There is no reason why female are better or worse in doing things than men. There is absolutely no scientific, except maybe a few very few roles. So it should be a given that we are equal, we get equal pay, we get equal opportunities. But you also need to be, me as a leader, I need to be conscious that it doesn't happen in a society. So we have, and as I've heard, we've 206 years behind.
260 now, actually. It's been added to it.
So we need to work on this, basically to solve this. But luckily, I'm in a company and I am in a country that is, we're working on it, we're focused on it, and as long as you're focused on it, it's a good, we can make things happen.
Yeah. So the things that stood out from me, from our chat, Trina, today, hearing your journey, you've gone from, this inspired young tech engineer, sales individual. You made some sacrifices, and that's something that shouldn't be forgotten. In the path to leadership is sacrifice. But some of the lessons learned along those routes are being accessible, being yourself is actually a red thread we've seen with many of the CEOs we've spoken to, being authentic. And going back to that point you made about having mentors, and asking for mentors. And I urge anyone who is interested in meeting a mentor or doing so. Trina is actually a member of the She Communities mentorship program, and they have several mentors, I think there's close to 50 of them now, business leaders who are involved in supporting men and women, obviously trying to support the speeding up and closing of the gender economic diversity gap. Just to finish that off, for me, creating trust and having a culture that accepts that drives equality, Trina. That's something that stood out for me from our conversation now as well. And that this time in COVID, never waste a good crisis is something that we've heard. And I know it's easier said than done, but having empathy and seeing the opportunity where we can.
One last message to young aspiring leaders.
I say one thing I've learned is really work hard. You need to work hard, but it's just for you to create the opportunity. There is nothing stopping you. It's just go out and create the opportunity, and it sounds a little bit, but it's true. I've never been stopped by asking. I've never been stopped by asking someone to and asking someone to tell me about a position or a role. I've never been stopped by being engaged and enthusiastic about something and interested. So I just say that there is all kinds of opportunities.
Trina, thank you so much for joining us at Breakfast with the CEO. My name is Matt C. Smith, and my co-host is
Yrja Oftedal.
Thank you for listening. This has been a She podcast, one of the many that'll be coming your way in the near future. So check us out on wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Yay!
Thank you, Trina.
Thank you.